Can you guys see my shared screen on the Zoom call? Yeah, cool. Thank you, Melinda. So Robert mentioned to me that he had a 12 o'clock and just wanted me to start rocking and rolling at 12:15. So I sent out this what's on my screen to everybody in the contacts in that email. And this is kind of a follow-up to last week's Lending 101, and this would be part 2. So if nothing else, kind of go through just some topics rather than dwell on any one thing, and spend the entire time just kind of hit some highlights on the industry. If anything pops up or questions arise, certainly we can get after it. But without any further ado, so right to the sheet. We had an entire session recently about mortgage insurance. So much like last week, we have 25 or so questions we're going to kind of rip through. Same with this week. So the whole mortgage insurance, and for those of you that were not in past sessions, it seems to, especially for people that have never purchased a home before, like there might be some upside or benefit to the consumer. And it just could not even be further from the case. It really doesn't benefit the client per se. God forbid they can't make their mortgage payment. All of a sudden insurance kicks in, or some way, somehow that they're covered, or there's a safety net in place. The bottom line is the borrower pays it. It protects the lender. It really doesn't even protect the borrower. FHA requires it for all loan to values. So this whole conventional loans.
Greg, can I say something really quick?
You may, yes.
I see a picture of your email screen. I don't see a picture of that document.
Okay, hang tight. Thank you. Appreciate you saying that. Bear with me for a second. This. How about now? Any better, Valerie, or no? Same email?
Still the email.
Hang tight.
No.
Does anybody else see what I'm seeing?
Yes,
I'm sure you're all seeing the same thing.
Yes, I'm seeing emails as well.
I didn't just put it that way for you, Valerie. I'm not quite that good. Hang tight. Stop share. Share screen. Any better now? Cool. All right. So yeah, the number one, that's mortgage insurance. So who pays it? The borrower pays it. Conventional loans, less than 20% down payment. We talked in previous sessions about the benefits of second mortgages. Might keep you away from mortgage insurance. Might get you better pricing, but in a nutshell, mortgage insurance is protecting the client, the lender. And God forbid the borrower defaults, the mortgage insurance is the thing that kicks in that covers any high-end losses for the higher loan to value. So that's really, in essence, what the client is paying, is to protect the lender from any losses at higher loan to values. God forbid they have to foreclose. Number 2 on here. Why do we as lenders present options for financing? So I've had some people that have even questioned, like, gosh, it isn't it just one size fits all? Why is it there's 2 options or 3 options, or, why do we do that? Or, how does that work? Really, in essence, from my standpoint, and I've been in the industry for 30 plus years. It's all I've ever done. I don't do real estate. I do loans only and lending only. But it's difficult to get inside of somebody's head and ask them point blank, what kind of person are you? The kind of person that wants the lower rate and lower payment and pay more fees? Or are you the kind of person that wants to pay less fees at a higher rate or a higher payment? So rather than go back and forth, and most people out there would say, I want the best of both worlds. I want the low fee and the low rate. We present options to people to empower them to make decisions. So if you want to get the rate down, no problem. You want to get lesser in fees, and it's going to be a little higher in rate, maybe with some lender credits. Number three goes hand in hand. Does it matter which option the borrower selects? For us as lenders, it doesn't. So I'm going to put together options that they qualify for. I'm not going to create options for them that are unreasonable. But at the end of the day, they all work. You know, pick a winner. I hate to oversimplify it, but you know, if I gave any prospective client two options, at the end of the day, I really don't care. So the number four, or number three rather, what does it matter which option they pick? Doesn't matter to me at all. And not to sound arrogant, but for us as lenders, we're gonna have this exact same amount of money in any option that we propose. Can we negotiate down from there? We could if we wanted to, you know, but and the options are a starting place. So it basically empowers clients to make decisions within kind of a narrow scope. Number four in here, what pitfalls do we look out for when we create any options? I'm not going to say that you know, it's just random. So pitfalls would be things like, and we've talked about this in prior trainings, there are maximum loan limits in counties. It would be foolish for us, the conforming loan limit 726,200. We would be foolish to price transactions for the same 726,200 and have one of the options go to a loan amount higher than that, because they're not going to get that same pricing. So we got to make sure. Other pitfalls would be, you know, are we right in and around 80% loan to value? Is there an option that all of a sudden went at 81%? And now mortgage insurance might kick in. So we got to be wide-eyed about stuff like that. I get this next question, number five, quite often. In fact, just got off the telephone with Karen Myatt, probably 25 minutes or so. And she's got a buyer that's looking at a 3-unit or 4-unit property and wants to know about rental income for a rental property purchase. And this pops up often. So is number five, is rental income usable to qualify on a rental property purchase? So certainly the rental income is usable, but it's not just pick a number out of the sky. So they're going to go to the extent to verify what is fair market rents with an appraiser. So there's something called a comparable market rent survey. And they take 3 other rentals that are similar, just like an appraisal for valuation, where they make adjustments based on bedroom bath count, square footage, things of that nature, amenities, pools, whatever. It's the same on a comparable market rent survey. So they're going to verify what current rents are. If you want to use the income and it's a new rental, then not only do they need the comparable market rent survey, but they have to go to the extent to get a fully executed rental agreement, plus the canceled check for the security deposit, plus the canceled check for the first month's rent. And the lending community is only going to use 75% of gross rent. They don't use dollar for dollar. So if you had rents for $1,000, that means you're getting credit income for $750 per month. The rent was $10,000, it's $7,500. It's not dollar for dollar. If you have a pre-existing rental that someone wants to purchase and there are already tenants in there, and that was the situation with Karen, and she says it's grossly under fair market rent. The buyer wants to get in there and wants to increase the rents as they can over time. We can only use what we have now. So even though they're undervalued, we can only use what you're currently getting for rents. If it's a pre-existing rental with tenants in there. Number 6, and I'm not going to really dwell on this, but what fees do FHA, VA, or USDA have specific to those programs? They all 3 of them have a fee that each of them allow to be financed on top of the loan amount, but it's a fee specific to that particular agency. FHA, they call theirs upfront mortgage insurance premium. But as much as FHA requires 3.5% down payment, you're going to see, why is the loan amount, if I had $100,000 purchase price, 3.5% down is $3,500. The base loan amount would be $96,500. Why is the loan amount higher than $96,500 on the approval letter? What's going on? I thought it was 3.5% down because they can finance the upfront mortgage insurance premium. VA's got something called a funding fee. Depends on how often you've used it, first time or subsequent. If you have a VA disability, you might be able to get out from under that. But for a first-time usage, VA funding fee is 2.3%. So with VA, in essence, it's 100% financing. So you can get the purchase, for 100% base loan amount. But if you have no VA disability and it's a first-time usage, $100,000 purchase is not a $100,000 loan. It's 2.3% funding fee. So the new loan amount would be $102,300. So the VA in that example is actually lending 102.3% loan to value. So they're actually over encumbering the property. It's been this way forever. It's nothing new. USDA's got something called a guarantee fee, and it's 2%. They tack it on top of the loan amount too. Number 7, and not going to dwell on it, but why would anybody use these programs? All comes down to what people need. So for the lending community, let me see what somebody's looking to accomplish. Let me see what their qualifications are. And then if you're half decent and or great at what you do, I'm going to put you into the program that's best suited for you for the most favorable terms. That's what we do. Why do we have such a large product offering on anything? Is to make sure that we're identifying where is the sweet spot? What is the best for these particular people? Okay. And I'm not going to just throw somebody into a product or program that would be to their detriment when there's something that might be better suited, better served. Number 8, and some people have heard this term, arrive. What the heck is arrive? Some of our loan officers have used this term. I'm not following. It's got one R in it. What the heck is this? It's our loan processing software. So it's where all the loans go, but it's also got a pricing engine in it. So we have, and for anybody that's been with our organization and brokerage for a minute or two, unbelievable amount of investment on technology, systems. I mean, really very forward thinking. I'm not going to downplay this for a third of a second. And Arrive would be no different. So when we put scenarios into Arrive with the lenders that are in there, the integrated lenders, it basically prices against one another and tells us who's the most competitively priced for that particular situation and scenario, based on the loan to value, based on the credit scores, based on anything. Why is on number 8, the second half of that is why is it important? It's where all of our files are housed. So absolutely got to be. We're doing a handful more cash out transactions. So I added number 9 in here, if nothing else, just to elaborate. But for a single family residence, what is the maximum cash out for conventional loans, for FHA loans, for VA loans? Credit card debt's higher than it ever has been right now. Last I read in the Wall Street Journal was sitting up at 970 billion with the B dollars in the nation. It's a silly amount, over the top. So there are people out there, and I had 2 of them yesterday, where our agents want to go in and list a house and get them another one, and or first-time home buyer, get them in, and these people are sitting on just a ton of debt. So there have been instances with regards to listings that unfortunately people have incurred so much debt that they can't qualify for that new home that they're seeking. So maybe it makes better sense to take a step back, get a cash out refinance done, consolidate some debt, get them a better situation, and then position them, maybe for that, sale and new purchase here down the road. So max cash out loan to values, this conventional loan, they go up to 80% of what the property's worth. That's it. Property's worth $1 million, 800. Property's worth, 100,000, 80 grand. The FHA product, 85% loan to value. So a little higher with FHA, and VA will do 100% cash out. So they're a very, very lenient program would be an understatement. If I were missing the boat on this max cash out here, for any of these programs, and they aren't having existing first, we need more money. The second mortgages that are out there, whether it's a fixed rate equity loan or whether it's an adjustable rate equity line of credit, those go higher in the equity stack than a standard first mortgage, with the exception to the VA. VA is 100%. Number 10, and if nothing else, and I'm not going to dwell on these income worksheets, but why and when do we use income worksheets in the lending community? Every one of these agencies has a worksheet that calculates what they will use for income. There's an unbelievable amount of people in our industry that just turn a blind eye to it. The customer says they make 10,000 a month, they use 10,000 a month. Never verify anything. Never really put pen to paper or get into a worksheet or input information. We do on every single one to determine what is usable, what do we have, and not just hazarding a guess and kind of throwing, that proverbial spaghetti noodle against the wall and hoping it sticks. So we use them on every deal, and it doesn't matter if they're a fixed income, a base wage, whatever they got. We're making sure that we know what income in certainty. Number 11 on here, and this is another really goodie, our maximum debt ratios published by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, or VA. So, this question comes up often. What is the maximum debt ratio? How high can they go? What does this extend to? So the answer to number 11 is there is nothing published within the agencies with regards to maximum debt ratios. It all comes down to, what can be done through the automated underwriting through desktop underwriting is DU, is through Fannie Mae, or LP is loan prospector through Freddie Mac. Pretty much establishes what is the max. We do these VA loans over here through the Department of Veterans Affairs, also in Calvet loans. They have no maximum debt ratio. We had one recently that got approved on a VA loan for 100% financing with debt ratio 76% over 76%. It's very high. So it all comes down to the strengths and weaknesses of the borrower. Do they have good money in savings? Do they have, good stability? Are their debt ratio, is their credit score high to offset the high debt ratios? Number 12, and so there are no max debt ratios published. Number 12, are there maximum debt ratios published for programs like USDA or the CalHAFA? Definitely when you're getting into down payment assistance or some other government type programs, they do have maximum debt ratios. Got to stay within a certain number in order to qualify for that product. You want to go down payment assistance? It's not 76%. They're going to have a maximum debt ratio. USDA's got certain max debt ratios. Even the programs that have maximum debt ratios, most of them have the set debt ratio that would be acceptable to anyone. And then they have a little higher debt ratio if you have what's called compensating factors. So they may come back and say, USDA is a great case in point, a compensating factor with them. Have you been on your job 2 or more years? That might be a comp factor. You have, a certain amount of savings post closing. That might be, and so they say, hey, if you're a better credit risk, then we'll let your debt ratios go a little higher than somebody that's not. Okay. I got a few on the second half of Lending 101. I got a few things in here that are just kind of just general, but yet it's come up so many times over the years. Number 13 is a great thought-provoking question. I've had a lot of people, especially those that are newer in the industry, ask open-endedly, when should I be asking for referrals? At what point in the transaction? Do we wait to the end? Do we have to show that we did a good job? Like, what is the kind of the quantifying piece that says, hey, I've now done what I otherwise should do, and now I'm okay to ask for referrals? And there is no magic to it. And I'll tell you flat out, if I said it once, I said it 1,000 times. I ask for referrals in the very first conversation I have with people, and always have. There are transactions referrals I get from people where I can't even help them, but I treated them well. I treated them with respect and dignity, and explained what the situation is. I gave them maybe a roadmap of things they need to do to get to where they want to go, but I couldn't help them. And they thought, like, hey, you know what? You treated me well. You seemed very knowledgeable. You were very thorough. And they're still going to give me referrals to friends, family, coworkers, whatever the case may be. So I would not wait to the end. Our industry and your livelihood is very dependent on many, many other people, whether we realize it or not. So don't be at a point where, some other hand in the cookie jar, such as the title company, the escrow company, an appraiser, a notary, a home inspector, God forbid, whoever, that all of a sudden is going to be a negative reflection, and somewhere down the road, they may come back and feel that, geez, that appraiser was terrible. Why on earth would I refer anybody to you? I can't sit here and control every aspect of the transaction, just try to manage it throughout. Number 14, when does a purchase or refi close escrow? And this is for anybody that's done a transaction or two out there. It seems very common sense oriented, but from the client standpoint, until you have confirmation recording, the deal's not done. There have been instances, and it's the exception to the rule, but there have been instances that the deed goes for recording and the deed gets rejected. Maybe the printer, there was a faint line through the legal document. The county recorder rejects the document and something needs to be redone. It's very infrequent, but it's not over till it's over. And it's not over till we get confirmation of recording. So, just from the standpoint of, hey, the lender funded, hey, we're going to docs. Oh my gosh, we got a closing disclosure. Everything's great. Once again, confirmation recording dictates finality. And then it goes hand in hand with number 15. When is it okay for borrowers or clients? I say borrower from the lending standpoint, but any client out there to rack up any new debt, change jobs. I have no problem with people changing jobs or incurring new debt as long as we're talking about it up front. So for us as lenders, and we pre-qualify somebody or put any, purchase or refinance transaction together, we do coach our clients to suggest, please don't incur any additional debt or don't change jobs without at least talking to me first. If you're overly qualified and you can afford this $850 Tesla car payment, I have no problem. Go buy the Tesla. Done deal. If it turns out it's going to be a deal killer and incurring that $850 payment here, throws you right out of the transaction you're seeking, I'd be the first to tell you, is there any way we can hold off until we have confirmation of recording to go buy the Tesla the very next day? Same with changing jobs. If the job change does not affect your ability to qualify, change jobs. I got no problem with it. If it does affect your ability to qualify, once again, I'd be the first one to say, is there any way we can hold off on the new job, get you closed, get confirmation of recording? If it's a purchase, get the house key, get in. At that point in time, go into the new job.
May we
Okay?
ask you a question?
Yes.
All right. So when somebody switches jobs, for instance, in the military, but they are doing exactly the same job, just at a different employer or a different place, can they write a letter of explanation? It's still the same job, but it's just for a different company?
Yeah, if you're, great question, Laura. If you're in the same industry, no problem. Here's where I'll say changing jobs gets into a pickle. And this is I'm not even gonna say a pickle. It's a pile of crap, quite frankly, is when people change jobs and they go from a job where they got base wage and they go to a job that's giving them largely commission income. In the lending industry across the board, if you're on variable income, commission is variable income. It's not, well, I get the exact same commission every single pay period. No, it doesn't work like that. So commission goes up and down. Overtime goes up and down. So if you go from base pay into a commission job, it's going to be a real problem because you don't have any history of the commission income to be used to qualify and calculate income. Conversely, if you went from a commission only job and changed into a base pay job and the new salary qualifies for the new loan, all day long, I can get into the new job, you get your first paycheck, done deal. So you can always go from variable income into base pay right away, no problem. I had an individual, I'll give you a great case in point, and this kind of hits home, Lotta, is I had a client that is a debt collector for one of the law firms in downtown LA. And he had been doing it for a while. Very, very good, guys. Great at what he does. I mean, even just on the phone, very, great communicator, really super solid, hard worker. He'd been working with the company for a while and was very successful in making a base salary. And he had a job opportunity with a new employer to go largely commission where he could double his income and go from making low 100,000s to making mid $200,000 collecting debt. And he said, it's opportunity of a lifetime. It's a deal killer. And I had to have a very difficult conversation with him to say, I know you're great at what you do, but if you do this, everything's going to unravel on you. Is there any way that the new employer could hold out? And I'm happy to talk to the new employer as well. I know you want the job. If you would like me to get on a three-way call and call them and explain what's going on, if there's any way they could hold that position for you until you can get confirmation and recording and get that house key and then move on with your life, no problem. But the fact of the matter is, if they really want you, and I would never, maybe say this to them unless I really knew them well, but if they really want you, they're going to hold out. Oh my gosh, you need an extra week or two? No problem. They're not going to say, oh, screw that house purchase. You're either taking the job or not. For most employers, they would say, hey, thanks for letting me know. What do we need to do to accommodate? So yeah, great question. But that's, kind of the nature of changing jobs. Those are things that definitely come into play. We've had some people nearing retirement. If you can hold off on the retirement, if I'm using that income to qualify, let's just get through closing, and then retire, enjoy your senior years. Wonderful. Great. Move on. Okay. Number 16. And this is, I have had arguments with people where, and I don't mean to sound rude once again, but when things are not going well, those clients tend to escalate and be calling people like me. And they're very frustrated and what's going on, and I'm not hearing. I feel like, I'm always a bother. But number 16 is purposeful in posing the question, how often should we communicate with our clients? As often as we absolutely have to. I got in an argument with someone last month and the clients are calling, and we're doing the real estate and the loan. And some people are very, very needy. I get that. We would wish that every single person we work with would be as easy to work with and we get along. We'd be exactly the same kind of people. It's just not the reality of things. So some people need that. And in the conversation on a Wednesday, I need to get status. And as I'm talking about it, the parties of the transaction, well, they just got status on Monday night. If I'm not going to sit here and bow down to them and accommodate every single time they call, they already know what's going on. They should be aware of this. The reality is you're not doing your job well if people don't feel good about themselves in the middle of the transaction. And some people need a little bit more handholding, so communication is really key. Those that communicate well get a lot of referrals in our industry. There's any one real common denominator for excessive referrals and just real, strong sales ability is the almighty communication that goes into it. Number 17, another excellent question. What aspect of the transaction should we not concern ourselves with? And there are times that I deal with our agents, real estate agents, brokers, our loan officers. That's escrow's job. That's the appraiser supposed to do. And title company's handling that. And it is unsettling for me, would be an understatement, because the reality of things is that, and even when it comes down to the lender or anybody that we're working with, the reality is you're making the majority of the money in commission on the transaction. And as nice as I can possibly say it, act like it. Every single aspect of the transaction is important. The less that we have an eye for detail, the more ticking time bomb and things that we have, they're going to explode in our face. We have instances, and you've been, our real estate agents and brokers have been a party to a transaction where the agent or broker on the other side is over the top smothering. And the agent, I'm just not going to sit here and I'm not going to answer their call. And I'm at Disneyland today with my kids. I'm entitled to spend time with my family. I get that. But you could text them and say, I'm tied up with clients right now, and we'll get back to you after 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 8, whenever. But I think people appreciate the fact that, hey, I've gotten your message. I know that you need to speak with me. I'm tied up right now, and here's when I'll get a hold of you. But, to think that any part of the transaction is something we just shouldn't even bother with, you're short-sighted, and you're going to make less money than somebody that's a little bit more wide-eyed and aware of everything that's transpiring, and not at a point where you put your head in the sand. Number 18, are we able to compete with anyone and why? So from the lending community, are there instances out there where, they're going to Navy Federal Credit Union, they're getting a VA loan. I can't believe they did this. There's just no way we can compete with Navy Federal. You know, that's Navy Federal. I've joked, we had one of our agents here I've known for a lot of years had her niece in a transaction and had gotten a financing option from Navy Fed. And then our agent said, at least, please, hey, talk to Greg, or, at that point, talk to one of our lenders, but mention me by name. Talk to Greg, at least let him a second set of eyes look at it. If they're giving you a great deal, he'd be the first to tell you. If he can offer you better financing, once again, and save you thousands and thousands, would you be interested? So on this VA loan from Navy Fed, and they'd used Navy Fed in the past. They were not first-time homebuyers. They're both husband and wife were career Navy. And we blew Navy Fed out for the exact same interest rate, just shy of $9,000 in cost for the loan, in reduction in the total cash to close. And even the first conversation, the niece had come back and said, I just don't think you can do this. They're Navy Federal Credit Union. And even jokingly, it's like they touched every base. They got the word Navy in their name, and it's a VA loan. They got the word federal in their name, and certainly you don't. And they're a credit union. But the end all say all is, even credit unions, as much as they're there to act on behalf of the members, the reality of things is we do business with lenders out there that are doing more business than anyone out there in the United States of America. They're offering the unbelievably most competitive financing options and terms. And they're making it back in what's called economies of scale. They're doing enough in volume where they can reduce their profit margins. And this is the why portion. They do so much more in volume that they're going to blow Navy Federal Credit Union right out of the water. We had a broker here, and I've known John for years and years, great guy. And his son was going through a refinance through his credit union up in Simi Valley at the time. And it was no slight on it. I'm a church going guy as well, but it was a faith-based credit union that his church was really advocating. We blew him out by over $20,000 for the exact same. I mean, just astounding. And I went back to him and he says, this is really difficult for me. The pastor of our church is really encouraging because the credit union gives back to the church. And I said, at some point in time, you got to make whatever is the right decision for you and your family. And I would never hold it against you or anybody else. If you felt that was a better way for you to go and the $20,000 or so is not material to you, no problem. But this is absolutely doable. And this is the best that I can find out for you and your situation. So absolutely we can compete and or beat anyone that's out there. And then we also have the ability to do deals as thin as we as loan officers want to. If I want to do an accommodation deal and do something thin and make it back, on referrals. And I worked a home and garden show at the San Diego Convention Center it happened to be September 11th of 2021. And I met a battalion chief through Vista Fire. I did his deal as thin as I possibly could do it. I ended up getting 4 funded referrals from one guy. So it's all kind of relative, and I was competing for his loan. I went right down to brass tacks. I asked him, hopefully if I do right by you, you'd refer business down the road. And it wasn't like you have to give me referrals or I'm not doing it, but in treating him well and giving him a screaming deal, good things happen. Number 19 is DU and LP, always dependable and correct. Chat box, make sure I'm not missing you. The different industry, Ayana, and that gets back to changing jobs. Sorry, I missed you in the chat box, but you can change them to a different industry. It's easier when you're on jobs that are closer to minimum wage type jobs. If you're getting into real strong specialty field, if I'm an electrical engineer with a doctorate, and now all of a sudden I want to make something up. I'm going to take a job.
Sell
There's-
insurance.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's, it's more difficult on things. But if I'm working, in Amazon fulfillment center, in like a warehouse plant, and then all of a sudden I get a job, with a retail store, like pick anything, even a fast food place or a restaurant or a Farmer Boys or Bed Bath and Beyond. On the minimum, like closer to that, those jobs are more prevalent, so it's easier to change industries on those. Okay, so number 19 is DU and LP always dependable and correct. We've talked about this in prior trainings, and I'll kind of touch base on it again. The DU and LP and the findings that are in there are directly correlated to how well versed and eye for detail the loan officer otherwise is. Did they verify all the income? Did they do the income worksheets? Is everything absolutely correct and solid? Have they gotten the bank statements? Have they verified all that money is sourced and seasoned and we're solid? Have we run the, everything that's into it? When we ran the credit, or all the debts that we hitting with, do we account for everything that might have otherwise a payment to it? We turn a blind eye to something. So I'm not going to say necessarily just because you have an approved eligible on D or LP that, oh yeah, we have this, it should fund any day. It all comes down to what was the quality of the data entry and input with the individual that ran it, as far as, can it stand on its own two legs?
What's the LP?
LP is loan prospector. And our industry, just like days of yesteryear, everybody used to use this term FICO score. Like, and every one of the credit bureaus has a different name for their credit score. But the industry tech talk, it's equivalent to like Xerox for a copy machine. They were just one company that did it, or Band-Aid to the adhesive strip. It's just one company that did it. So DU is what a lot of people associate automated underwriting with. But the agencies for conventional loans are through Fannie Mae, and Fannie Mae has desktop underwriting. They call theirs DU. And Freddie Mac is also conventional loan, same pricing. They have a different automated underwriting system. They call theirs loan prospector, LP. And there are some differences with LP that don't hold true with DU. And one of them right off the top of my head, and this is just like really quick, down and dirty, Freddie Mac will accept self-employed people with 5 years or more self-employed, only the last 1 year tax returns to qualify. Freddie Mac likes a 2 year average. So if the last year looks great, maybe it makes better sense and we can get them into a little bit more purchasing power to run it through LP and a Freddie Mac program, which is still conventional, same rate as Fannie Mae, but it's just the difference of, hey, we need this in order to get, the most favorable outcome for our client. Number 20, and everybody's asking about rates these days. How long? When should we lock the rate? What do you think? Rates are creeping. We've had rates increasing here day to day. Rates are up again today. There's a lot of nervous anxiety in the market. We discuss it as loan officers up front. I do, ask people if, for me personally, if I pitch, and I would suggest to every one of our loan officers, if I pitch options to them and they like what they see, I'd be more inclined to put the foot in the door and get the rate locked in than hope that tomorrow is going to be a better day. If we feel, and we're very knowledgeable, we have some loan officers who are very knowledgeable on market movements, on what reports are coming out. There could be a jobs report that with an unemployment claim that maybe is coming out this Thursday or Friday, that if you're very knowledgeable in the industry and you're reading what these findings are expected to be, maybe you hold out until that report hits on Thursday or Friday, whenever it's coming, knowing that it's going to be more favorable and we'll have a little rally to the market and we can do better by our clients. But the how long should it be locked in for is for the time it takes to fund the transaction, or however long your escrow time period is based on the RPA. And then the when, for me personally, I'd rather get the foot in the door. I'd rather be at a point where if I lock the rate in, at least it's not going to be any worse than this. If the market improves, we can work on trying to drop you down and get the better rate down the road. But rates are unfortunately creeping. As much as the Federal Reserve is increasing their benchmark rates, it looks like on March 22nd is the next Federal Open Market Committee meeting. It looks like they were thinking more modest, maybe 0.25% increments, but inflation is still going right to the top of the moon. So I'm thinking of what I'm reading, that we're probably looking at 0.5% to 0.75% back to that March 2022 increase, because things are just not adjusting the way the Federal Reserve would like them to. So yeah, and kind of the rate lock in place, and last little thought on that is kind of the old adage, a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush, which just relates to, hey, to get the lock means I have this in my hand. At least I have this, rather than, well, I could have maybe something better around the corner. At least, like I say, we can get the foot in the door, and it won't be any worse than that. Number 21, when can a borrower pay for an appraisal and a credit report? As soon as the initial disclosure goes out to clients, loan estimate is the initial disclosure. As soon as the LE, loan estimate, goes out, and the client acknowledges receipt of the LE, we can immediately order the appraisal. The credit report is the only thing we can order right away up front. So the federal regulations have the terminology, the client can pay for a reasonable cost for a credit report fee without the disclosure. So we can get the credit report fee up front without the LE. The appraisal definitely needs the LE. We can pay for the appraisal without the LE. So there are some instances that, man, we have a really tight, appraisal contingency. It must be done right away. You don't understand the sense of urgency. I'm not saying that we can pay it as loan officers out of pocket prior to the LE, but clients cannot pay for it. The borrower cannot pay for it until they acknowledge receipt, either through a wet signature or the e-sign. They don't have the DocuSign moniker, but it's the same electronic signature process. Number 22, we compete for pricing on loans all the time, every day. If I'm competing for a loan, and number 22 says, what paperwork is needed? And I take good quality information from clients over the phone. You tell me what your credit score is, I'll take it at face value. You tell me what you make for income, I'll take it at face value. Whatever debt you have, no problem, no problem. But if I'm really getting down to brass tacks and competing dollar for dollar on a loan with someone else, I really got to look at the detailed cost breakdown from the other competitor to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. So many people out there, oh, your closing costs are only $3,000, but yet they didn't disclose title fees, appraisal fees, escrow fees. They have no impound account. It's a government loan. FHA or VA requires impounds be set up. So they lowball, and the term bait and switch is very strong in our industry, but they lowball the bottom line figure to get clients in the door, and then sucker punch them in the middle of the transaction back. Oh yeah, you didn't, that title fee, that's on every transaction. Come on, who didn't know that? So I would rather, if I'm competing, get the broad base of everything it is people are being offered. And if they won't give it to me, I'll still put together the best we got, but it's more difficult to compete apples to apples. If I see someone else's quote, it's very easy for me to go in and just blow it to bits. Number 20, and it doesn't cost anything to compete to the client. It doesn't cost them anything. It costs us a little bit of time, big deal. Number 23, great question. Does it matter if the borrower likes you? I mean, God bless us all, but I mean, and it says respects you at the end of that. I'm in a nice way, and I've done a little over 10 through my companies, and personally, I've done a little over 10,000 transactions over the years. And at the end of the day, it is important if they like me. I mean, not so much really. I mean, it's not like I'm here to make friends. I gotta do my job very well, and be good at what it is that I do, and be a good communicator. From a respect standpoint, I think that might be a little bit more important than respect what it is you're bringing to the table in comparison to they really even like you. There are some people that are so good at sales that for me personally, if I were not in the industry and I was looking for a listing agent that would list my home for sale, I'm looking for someone that's freaking nails, that just absolutely is just going to eat somebody up and spit them out. Because at the end of the day, I want them to represent me as best as possible. And who cares about anybody? There's no feelings involved, so it's kind of all relative. But, the respect standpoint comes into play when you're offering things that there's a value add. And hand in hand, the end of number 23 in the respect standpoint, no client out there is coming to you if they could do all this stuff themselves. If they had the knowledge and the licensing to do it, why are they contacting you? What do they need you for? So the bare bones fact of it all is, why do they need us? Is because we're damn good at what we do. And I'm going to represent you well, and I'm going to get you to the finish line and get you what you otherwise want, deserve, expect, on and on. Number 24, another broad-based, open-ended question. But I'd be remiss in not even bringing it up. But how do we end conversations, emails, or texts with anyone that we deal with? And I've always taken this, and it works very well for me. There are certain things in the industry that, and this would be one of them, that is put millions of dollars in my and my family's pocket and provided well. And in ending conversations, if you set the expectation with people as to what we're doing from this point and what we're doing from this point to the next time we speak, I think it goes very well and bodes well in comparison to leaving things very loose. And we just get off the phone like, okay, hey, thank you very much. No problem. So with anything, if clients are giving me as a lender all of their, and they want a pre-qualification, they gave me all of their documents. I'll review everything before the close of business today. If there's anything else I need from you, I'll let you know. And you can expect to have an approval letter before I leave the office this evening. You know exactly where you stand. If I need something, I'm going to let you know. If I can get through it, I'll get through it. If I've gotten all your documents, your loan is being submitted, I'm going to let you know what is the lender's approximate turnaround time for underwriting approvals. Once you get the underwriting approval, if there's anything needed, I'll let you know. If there's nothing needed, I'll confirm we have the approval and everything's great. If appraisals are being ordered, I just want to let you know the appraisal's ordered. We bill appraisals for the most part to clients on their credit card. We have a credit card authorization form. I'm going to let them know when the appraisal is being ordered, so they're not blind. Wait a second. What is this charge for my card? You already agreed to and signed for it. But I'll let them know, this is the next step. There are disclosures that are coming, from the lender to their email. So in ending anything out there, I've always found that if I can set the expectation and then I set the expectation, so I hold up my end of the bargain. And I'm not at a point where I set unrealistic expectations. But if I told somebody that sent me all their paperwork early afternoon on a pre-qual for purchase with the approval letter request, that I'll review it today, it should be an act of God for me not to get to it, and I'm still going to follow up with them. I've had a family emergency. I have to leave immediately. This is what's going on. I will not be able to get to your transaction here before close of business today, but I will get to it tomorrow by such and such a time, and I got to bank on it. I can't continue to kick the can down the road. So if you keep people, I use number 24 in ending conversations. I use this term in training as a proverbial time clock. And if you keep clients on a time clock, and it could be on a prospective buyer, when are you looking to move? I've now established what is the time clock there. If I need paperwork from you, when do you think, here's everything I need from you, pay stubs, W-2s, bank statements, whatever. When do you think you would have those to me? I ask them, I put them on the clock. They are establishing their own turn time. And then it's not unreasonable for me to call them if I haven't had it. If they said I should have it by tomorrow, Thursday, March 9th, by close of business, and I don't have it by 6:30, it's fair for me to call them and say, hey, just following up and touching base. I haven't gotten anything yet. Want to make sure nothing's slipping through the cracks. Do you have this paperwork? Geez, there's one other thing I need. I'm struggling, and maybe I can help you find that. Maybe I can help you work through it. Maybe there's something else we can go that's a plan B. And I don't even, otherwise we're beating our head against the wall for something that maybe I don't even know, it's not that important right now. Okay. So the time clock and number 24 and keeping things and setting expectations realistic, whether I ask the borrower to set an expectation, whether I do, it works very, very well. It seems overly simplistic, but in getting information from people like, okay, thanks for getting it to me. I'll review it. Okay. Is that a day? Is it 2? Like what is, and I think people appreciate the fact that, I know my industry well enough where if there's a call to action for something, how does this work? How long is it going to take? When am I going to be at the next step? Okay, what's going on? And not at a point where we get down to the end of the transaction and we're late to close and everyone's looking at one another. Because the fact of the matter is, for anybody that's been in the industry, once again, for a minute or two, if you come in late to close, it's very easy to look back in time through that, like hindsight 2020, to identify where people dropped the ball in the middle. What could we have done differently? Where could we have put more sense of urgency? But if we did it throughout the course of the entire transaction, the beauty of it all, and there's nothing more satisfying to have, and from a lender standpoint, to have every single thing knocked out, signed off, ready to fund. And the only thing we need to do on the expected day for funding is just request the wire. Oh my gosh, how nice is that? Nothing else is needed. Every condition is met, every I is dotted, T is crossed. We wake up that day, we push a button, wires sent, recording documents are sent to the county recorder, for recording. Super easy. I put my contact information at the bottom of everything I put out. If nothing else, there's always things that pop up that seem to be kind of, maybe into the gray area, or outside of the box. But yeah, from the standpoint of any and every single thing that pops up, happy to answer and or engage on anything. I had one of our dual agents, loan officer, real estate agent, last night. I was at the office last night till about 8:25. I had somebody ask me earlier in the evening, what time are you here until? And I joked with Karen Mai when I talked to her before we started training. What time are you here until? Until I'm done. I mean, until I'm done with everything that I got to do today, that's, I'll leave when the work is otherwise completed. And if I can't get it done, then I'm going to touch base with everybody and explain to them, maybe I'm waiting for something else. Maybe there's a call to action. I have this out to umpteen different lenders and I'll have it wrapped up by tomorrow mid-afternoon or tomorrow close of business, and reset the expectation if there's something else going on. But I got a call from one of our dual agents last night that went after bankruptcy, notice of defaults. And she says, hey, I got all these NODs, I'm looking, I'm trying to call these people, can you help me? And I can come up and help with, put together, if you want to write a script, you want a second set of eyes and ears to look at it, you want an angle. And I went back and I said, from a lending standpoint, if they already have the notice of default filed, in the lending community, the notice of default NOD, the notice of trustee sale is right at the 11th hour, the NOTS, and or the eventual foreclosure means that you lost the property and the lender took it back. They all count as a foreclosure on your credit in our industry. So the second the notice of default is filed, congratulations, you got a foreclosure. And all that means from the standpoint of, hey, do we have any loans for somebody that's got an NOD filed? You do, but it's not going to be for any great rate and any higher loan to value. I mean, it's going to be a bit of a tough road to hoe. So, from that standpoint, I would fixate on, hey, can you help these people and get them out from under, turn those into listings. So even in the 30 minutes or so that I talked with Juliana last night, I left it with her and I only do loans. That's, the end all sale is, I want people to succeed, across the board. I don't see that there's really a lot of play there, but, I can help if nothing else. And then went back to her and said, if they filed, then you can go to the extent in public record information, see approximately what the house is worth now. You can see the last original loan amount for the loan. I'd probably tack on, based on that price point, 5-6 months worth of payments on top of that. Because if they have the NOD, they haven't been making the payment for a while. And let them know that, hey, I've identified per public record information that not as much as the notice of default has been filed, you have money and equity in this house. You have an opportunity to sell it, get out from under, and take that money and realize it to you and your family, in comparison to just hope and pray, get all the way down to the end of the line, the lender takes it back, and you're left with nothing. Property values in recent years, in COVID, 2019, 2020, property values were going up 20% per year. It was unbelievable. It's settled now. We all know that. But for anybody that's owned their property for 4 or 5 years, do they have equity? Yeah. Is the lender looking at that? Yeah. You look back in 07, 08, when property values went down 50, 60%, why were lenders so willing to modify loans? Because there was no equity. There was no plan B. So from the standpoint of modifying the loan, in essence, if they took the property back, then they're going to realize their loss and have to write that off as a bad debt. And instead, they would modify the loan, extend that term out. Maybe they didn't get paid back in the time frame they originally wanted, but they still got paid. They still made money, and they waited for property values to rebound and appreciate and get themselves in a better equity position. You know, these days we're not sitting at negative equity. So these days, for people that are in that bind, I only bring that up because it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, something that's like a lending question guideline or whatever. If I can help on anything, happy to. If it's beyond the scope for me, I'd be the first one to tell you. I'm definitely, for anybody that knows me at all, I definitely am not going to talk out my backside and just offer things and just random and just, you know, shoot from the hip. So, yeah, definitely. And that, you know, even as much as I mentioned earlier today about the investment that our brokerage and the organization makes in our people, and it's the staff, our sales agents, everybody. It holds true with the support staff as well. There's a lot of help and assistance. So don't feel like, you know, with anything, you're ever on an island. And like I say, a second set of eyes and ears sometimes is the difference maker to realize, like, why are we beating our head against the wall? We can take a step back, walk 3 steps to the left, and walk right around the wall. I got past it in seconds, you know, and at times we get the horse blinders on and you know, and get overly frustrated, even with other lenders that have this notion like, yeah, this is the only thing that can be done. Maybe there's another way to look at it that somebody hasn't you know, explored or examined. It holds true in the medical profession all day, every day. You know, the people that are really good at what they do are constantly reinventing themselves and looking at, how can I sharpen my task? How can I be a little better at this? How can I learn more? I'm learning every day. There's nobody out there for somebody to feel like, oh, I got all this figured out. No. You know, every deal sits by itself, and transactions are unique to each and every one. So that's the extent of what I have for today. Make sure I'm not jamming anybody. That's nice of you to say, Valerie. Thank you. But yeah, if I can ever help you guys with anything, by all means, let me know. And I got my phone in my pocket all the time. For any reason I miss your call, for a lot of folks out there, if I miss the call, like, you know, I'll get back, you know, I'll text you when I can buzz you back. I'm with someone else or tied up, but I try to catch every call as best as I possibly can. I'm not a big fan of voicemail, just like you guys aren't. All right. Appreciate you.
Alrighty. Thank
Prayer
you,
hands.
Greg.